Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Office Hours. I am Jeff Blankenberg, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan Lowe. Ryan, welcome, man.
Hey, how's it going?
I am good. As some may have noticed last week, or maybe not, I was out, and I went on a little golf trip and played moderately, and had a nice time out in the woods. It was a good time to kind of get away. There's not a lot of internet there. The signal's not very good unless you're on specific holes on the course, but at the cabin where we were staying, so it was good to get away a little bit.
Good.
But now I'm back and ready to get after it. There's a couple new figures even on the wall. We've got the 3D glasses gremlin right here.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
The Black Spider-Man from the new Spider-Man movie. And even if you guys have seen the TV show Loki, I can't get my finger together. The TV show Loki, this is one of the characters and the Miss Minute character, the little clock down there below. So, continuing to add to the shelf. I don't think most people notice it gets rearranged, but it happens frequently. Anyway, what's new with you?
But do you have any grommets put in yet?
No.
Dang it.
I've even had the drill sitting here with the drill bit in it for weeks now, and just have not brought myself to do it. So you know what, Ryan? I'm going to make you a promise. Those grommets will be installed, and all of the devices will be powered up by the next office hours. We'll make that commitment right here.
All right, I'm holding you to it.
All right, I appreciate it. No, I need that. The other thing I've got that I haven't put back up. You have those awesome nanoleaf things behind you, and I have the triangles. Yes. I have a whole bunch of these sitting here. Those are going to go.
Do you have room for them?
Right under here.
Oh, nice.
Because I don't have a light under this shelf like I do on the others, so I was going to use these underneath there. I don't know what the pattern is going to look like. I have to figure that out. But that is another project. So maybe we'll just knock them all out, make it happen.
Do it.
All right. So Tom B stopped in YouTube just to say he wanted everyone to have an excellent day. I don't know if he's still here, but thanks, Tom, for that. And we've got W. Giorgio and Kevin Evans. Trade Last is here. I like Trade Last's little reference to good Amazon date, everyone. Perfect. I'm going to try sitting down. We're going to see how that's going. What's new with you, Ryan?
Let's see. Not a whole lot. Last week I missed, but not because I was golfing, because my son was exposed to another student who had COVID, so he had to isolate. Luckily, everyone's healthy, so that's good, but school policies, so
yeah.
I thought it'd just be easier to skip the week. So W. Giorgio, I enjoy the fact that you asked who are, like, we missed 1 week and he's forgotten who we are completely. So
that just goes to show what
perfect.
Little impact we have on their lives. It's good.
Yeah. But I was worried, Jeff. So I know you're a TikTok user, and so I knew that you were going someplace where you may not have good reception. So last week, Berries and Cream TikTok took over. And so I wanted to make sure you did not miss out. So I did send you a bunch of videos. You didn't comment or anything, so I was worried.
So here's the thing. I have not seen a single Berries and Cream TikTok video.
Are you serious?
All the ones that you sent me.
And then did it take over?
And then that completely flipped the algorithm, and now that's all I see. And I think I love it. Like, I've gotten to the point now where when I see a regular video, it feels like a joke.
Yeah.
Like the videos that don't have some Berries and Cream involved. We should probably give some background to this. I'm sure there are some people that aren't even on TikTok that are like, what are these guys talking about? Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah. So the bigger picture is TikTok has an amazing algorithm that will sort you. And so once you start interacting with certain videos, you just keep getting more and more and more of those. And there was, I think I found, so there's this old commercial, Starburst commercial from like 2006. That stars for Berries and Cream TikTok. And it has this guy who dresses up like an English lad who does a little dance for Berries and Cream. And that hit the internet, in 2006 and then has disappeared. I think I found the original TikTok video. So there's this teenager who someone commented on his TikTok. It says, like, you look like someone who would enjoy Berries and Cream. and he's got a little bit of a haircut like the lad. And so if once that video hit, it just took over. And so people were taking the Berries and Cream song from the commercial and auto-tuning it to different music. It just is everywhere if you're on Berries and Cream TikTok. And that's how they kind of like decide like where the algorithm sorts you in these different categories of TikTok.
Yep. And so there's been lots and lots of songs where you like the foundation to TikTok is really that most every video you see has some background track to it. It might be a song you've heard or not, but it oftentimes there's a musical background. And so you're used to hearing music behind all of these videos. And then all of a sudden now these videos have these songs, but then right when you hit the chorus or like the main words of the song, they'll swap out the person saying Berries and Cream from this horrible commercial. And you're like, oh yeah, that's another Berries and Cream video. It's funny. It's because it's so bad that it's funny.
And I was worried that you would miss the whole thing being gone. So no, I'm glad I was able to help you.
It's been running rampant inside my house. So we tend as our family to share a lot of videos back and forth between each other. And a lot of them have been Berries and Cream videos lately. So
good.
Awful. Well, Kevin, I'm sorry to hear that situation. I'm assuming you mean the COVID situation hit you with your kids as well. I hope everyone is healthy there, and it was just a quarantine and not an actual contraction. Well, as a reminder to everyone, we are here to answer your questions. So if you have questions about how to build things for Alexa, or how to think about voice, or how to design screens for APL, or whatever it is, we would love to help facilitate the answers to those questions. We're here every week at this time. So if you think of something on Wednesday or Thursday, you're welcome to come back and join us. But I do also want to mention that we have a Slack community, and a number of the people that are here in the comments are participating in that community as well. And it's a place that you can ask questions 24/7 of your fellow developer community. So there are people there that have all sorts of expertise across a wide range of things related to voice development. And if you have questions that aren't getting answered, or you just can't seem to find it through our docs or through Googling or whatever, I would highly recommend checking out the Slack community. And you can find that here. I think I even have a little banner for it at alexa.design/Slack. So that is what I would recommend. If you're not already a member there, go ahead and join. All you have to do is go to that URL and you'll get right in. So join us there. You can find me. You can find Ryan. If you have specific questions for us, maybe you don't want to ask here on the show, reach out. Say, hey, we'd love to hear from you. Okay.
Absolutely.
That being said, Stuart says, so all this talk of songs, are there any limits for streaming audio through Alexa skills? It's a great question. There's a variety of ways. And Jose has a great question as well coming right up. So related to streaming audio, there's a couple of different ways to do that. The first way, the oldest way, is using something we call the audio player. And this allows you to basically kick your skill over to the built-in audio player that's on Alexa and play an audio file. When the audio file ends, it can return to your skill and you can kick off another one or whatever. But at the time that the audio is playing, you're not actually in your skill. And so it's not a perfect world, but it allows you to stream as much audio as you'd like. And it's the same way that services like Spotify and other things like that, that's how their stuff works. So that's step one. That's the easiest way. If you have tracks or audio files or podcasts or whatever, that's probably the way you'd want to go. If you're talking about sound effects though, or shorter audio, I think less than 240 seconds in total, which is 4 minutes. In that case, you can actually use SSML, speech synthesis markup language, to mark up the audio that you're feeding back to Alexa. And you could just reference specific audio file MP3s and say, hey, I want to play this thing as a sound effect. I want to play this as maybe a voiceover, whatever it is. But as long as you fall within that 240 second limit, you can do that directly with audio files that you have wherever. And it doesn't leave your skill. It's actually part of the audio response that you send when you're having Alexa talk back to the user. So those are your two options for the most part. It gets a little more complicated when we start talking about things like APL. There are ways with APLA to also mix audio and do some other things, but those are the two core ways that I generally recommend. And then APL gives you a third option as well. Ryan, do you have anything to add to that? I don't know how well
I don't know if also is in the question licensing of the music that you are referencing. So if you're going to stream audio through the Alexa skill, you need to make sure that you have the rights and right licensing to be able to do that, unless it's your own personal skill that you don't plan on publishing anywhere else.
Right. And even then, I mean, you should always be conscious of following all the laws, right? I think that's probably pretty good. And so if you
good starting point.
Audio, you should definitely have permission to use that audio, whether it's a private skill or otherwise. But I think for a private skill, no one's going to be really able to call you on that. But for any skill that's published, yeah, you have to own the rights, and you probably will have to demonstrate that you have the rights to play that audio. So just something to keep in mind for sure. Let's talk about Jose's question. Can you please give us an outline on how to do e-commerce from my skill? Thanks. There's two ways, and I'll cover both of them pretty briefly. And Ryan, if you at any moment want to interrupt me or add more, please do. So the first one is using Amazon Pay. Amazon Pay is a third-party transaction processing service that you can use, and it allows you inside your skill to be able to do things for physical goods and services. So we're talking about ordering a pizza or Starbucks. We're talking about ordering a maybe plumbing service, but it's something that's real world. That is how you go about doing those things. And you can easily connect Amazon Pay with Alexa, and there's lots of tutorials out there on how to do that. But that is the process that you need to go through in order to sell real physical goods and services. And the cost for that is pretty minimal. It's about the same as a credit card transaction. So I think most of them are around like 2.5 or 2.9% plus like a dime for every transaction. So that's something to keep in mind. Because you did specify, though, I also want to talk about in-skill purchasing, because in-skill purchasing applies only to digital things that happen inside your skill. And this allows you to sell 3 different kinds of products. The first one is what we call a one-time purchase, which is, for example, maybe you have a skill that has hundreds of stories in it. When someone buys that story, they now own the rights to that forever. And so they don't have to buy it again or anything like that. That's a one-time purchase. Another one might be an adventure game. You buy a special weapon that you can use in the game. You own that weapon now forever. That's a one-time purchase. The second one is a subscription. We've all had subscriptions. We've all tried Netflix at some point or whatever. But a subscription is a recurring charge. It can be either monthly or yearly. You set the prices on these things, and the user can subscribe to your skill with their voice. So they can say, yeah, I'd like to have that subscription, and then they are subscribed. And that's kind of the beauty of these things. The last option is what we call a consumable. And a consumable are the things that you buy and you use up, and then you buy more of them, like coins and hints and stuff like that. Now, you could do that with your axe, right? You could say, oh, you get 50 swings of that axe, and then it breaks. I know that playing the most recent Legend of Zelda game, Breath of the Wild, they did that with all of the weapons in that game, and it drove me crazy because you'd find this awesome sword or axe or whatever, and then it would last for an hour, and then you had to go find another one. But that is certainly something you could do as well. So I don't want the axe to be a specific example because it could apply to either. But in most cases, once you buy a good weapon, you probably own it forever. So those are the 3 kinds. And then we announced at Alexa Live, although I don't think this has been rolled out completely yet, is the idea of paid skills. So we talked about this in Alexa Live during the keynote, as well as one of the after sessions, the breakout sessions. And this basically allows you to have, like you have on your phone, right? There are apps that you have to buy before you can use them. And then there are lots of apps that you can try and use for free, but they have a bunch of premium content built into them. So paid skills is now also something that we're working on and should be available broadly very soon. That was a lot, Ryan. Anything I missed?
Well, there's also Alexa shopping actions as well.
True.
Coming soon, that was announced.
His question was specifically around e-commerce.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think that the shopping actions is interesting. I suppose that's a way you could sell your own products. But I feel like, well, I guess if you're selling your own products on Amazon, are those eligible for that stuff? I actually don't know the answer
Well,
to
there's
that.
the Amazon Associates where you get a commission, but then there's also just like adding a yoga mat to your shopping cart in
Yeah,
Amazon.com.
yeah, that's a good one. So shopping actions, does that the thing I don't know, and I just haven't dug into it yet because it's um, not fully available, is can you use any, like with the shopping actions, can you choose any product, or do they have to be the ones that are fulfilled by Amazon or
Ooh,
sold by
that's a good
Amazon?
question.
I don't know the answer
Yeah,
to that. Um,
good question.
Jose Daniel, you just asked the follow-up question, which is it possible to sell a product from the Amazon Marketplace? Yes, Alexa shopping actions is designed specifically for that, to be able to basically tell the user, and Ryan used a great example of a yoga mat. Let's say you have a skill that walks people through a bunch of yoga exercises. You could say, hey, if you need a yoga mat, we actually have one we recommend. Um, Please check this product out. Would you like me to add it to your cart? You can actually go through that process and let them purchase the very specific yoga mat that you'd like. But it only pertains to products that you can find on Amazon. And that was what Ryan and I were just chatting about. Is I don't know if there's any limitations to which products on Amazon you can or can't offer, but that's something to look into.
I know when Steph was hosting a couple of weeks ago, not last week, but before then, she showed off a repository in Alexa Samples where she walks through the code for shopping actions. I was gonna, if you want to broadcast that, I just sent it in the private chat.
Yeah.
But it's really, really thorough, I thought. You just grab the ASIN, which is the product identifier from Amazon.com, and then you're able to just add that to your skill in different geographies and so on.
Yeah, that's very
so
cool.
This hasn't been fully released, I don't believe, but you can at least start to take a look at the code to see how it will operate, which I think is really slick.
All right, so W. Giorgio says, I asked in Slack, but I figured I'd ask here as well. Is there a way that we could play background music so it continues between intents without using Web API? I don't believe so. I believe that the Web API for games, the Alexa Web API for games, is the only way today that you can have a background track that lives on in between interactions. My hope is that at least APLA, which is the audio APL interface, my hope is that that will also then support that in the future, but I have not seen that yet. So no, I don't believe that there is a way outside of the Web API for games to do background audio, which is unfortunate, right? It seems like, at least from my perspective, it seems like if it's possible one place, it should be possible every place. But that is not yet supported completely on the platform. Let's see. Agency 2, I know you've been having some struggles with Amazon Pay. It says you have a white screen and a pause in the middle of the skill. I have to find someone deeper in the organization that can help you, because I know you've been struggling with integrations with Amazon Pay for a bit, and I hate to see that. So let's revisit that and see if there isn't somebody that I can get to take a glance at what you guys are trying to do. Luke Leon, we talked a while back about Alexa showing the text on the screen while Alexa is reading a Kindle book, and whether we'd be able to do that in skills as well. I didn't make any progress on that. It doesn't seem like that is possible today. So this is, Ryan, I don't know if you were there for that episode, but we were talking about how there are specific situations, like when we listen to music, where it can actually highlight the word that the user is saying, and that we do that. We have that capability inside APL. It's called karaoke mode. So that you do that, you can feed your text and it'll actually highlight the words that Alexa's saying at the time. But this is not something that's available when Alexa is reading your Kindle book to you. And that seems like that would be a really cool feature. I've reached out to a few folks, but I didn't have a lot of success. So Luke, let me add that to my list of things I want to dig into again this week. See if I can find the right people.
I remember an article that I read a while ago that talked about the legality of audiobooks and showing text and the different like copyright issues and different use cases where, you may have the audio use and like an audiobook, but maybe not have the rights then to the text version of that, because that is the actual book. And doing audio speech to text then becomes problematic because now you're replicating the book. And I think it's a really complicated, really, really complicated thing. I remember an article from like a year or two ago, like this has been a while, so I have no idea what the current state is. I found that really fascinating that people basically were saying like, oh, we reinvented books by doing audiobooks and then speech to text and then back to books.
Right. It's like someone the other day was talking about how cool it would be if Uber had larger vehicles that were on a predictable schedule. So like you could just get in. And I was like, are you talking about a bus? And you're
bus.
Talking about a bus. It's just so funny to me how sometimes we forget that these mechanisms already exist and the problem's been solved for dozens or hundreds of years. But yeah, there we are. Okay, so Oxygen Box says, is the 9/28 Amazon device event being streamed? I don't believe that it is. My understanding, Oxygen Box, and I'm going to get some clarification on this. One, let me take a step back. We have announced to specific media partners that there will be a new device event on September 28th, which is next Tuesday, I think, right? Yeah, next Tuesday. My initial understanding, and it's somewhat naive, is that it is only being broadcast to those media partners, reporters, that kind of stuff. I'm sure it will be shown later, but I think the live broadcast is only being shared with that small audience. So I don't know that for sure, but that is my understanding. And as soon as I have more information that I can share, that I will. And it probably will be in Slack. That will be the most timely place that I can share that information. But as of right now, I'm not aware of a place that it will be streamed. And if I can make that happen, I will. But I know that we have a lot of very specific rules related to PR and a number of other things. So I'm not going to break through that wall. If PR says we're not doing it, then we're not doing it. But as Tapster just mentioned, The Verge will most certainly live blog it. So will Engadget, and a number of other, Wired probably will. So you'll at least be able to get screenshots and text and opinions all at that same time. So that's all I know for now. This is a very, very hush-hush thing. And honestly, because we are the developer side of the business, we are not included in the information embargo. We don't get to know anything beforehand. So I know we have a new fall device event every year, but I couldn't, honestly, if you and I were standing in the same room and you had a gun to my head, I still wouldn't be able to tell you what we're talking about next Tuesday because I don't know. I wish that I did, but I will be just as surprised and delighted as all of you when I find out. Someone wanted to know what the Slack channel was. You can go to alexa.design/Slack. And I hope at some point I start training you on these URLs. If you're ever not sure about what something is, try alexa.design/whatever the thing is. If you want to know where our blog is, go to alexa.design/blog. If you want to know where the podcast for Alexa and Friends is, go to alexa.design/podcast. There are literally thousands of those things set up. And if you're ever not sure, try that first. You'd be surprised how often it works. So there you go, alexa.design/Slack. All right,
that is remarkably useful. I use that all the time because I can't remember URLs to save my life, but I can remember that.
And it is still easier than trying to Google it because there's a good chance that it's going to work. And with Google, I mean, it's a great search engine, but you're never sure if the first or second result is the right one or whatever. So this takes you right to the place you want to go. And we've curated those, so we've made sure that they're going to the place that you would expect it to go. Okay. Fabio, this is a good question. And Brian, I'm going to let you take a stab at this first because I think you've gotten some of this in your learnings recently. How do I get the email and mailing address from a user? Currently, I only have their user ID.
Yeah, so this would be different permissions that you need to ask for. So I'm actually pulling them up right now.
Do you want to share your screen? Would that be helpful?
Oh my gosh. No.
That's fine.
My screen is a complete mess right now. But let me get to it really quick. Yes, if you go under, so I'm in the developer console, and if you go under models and then permissions, actually just get out of the custom. So if you go to permissions inside the developer console, it shows all the different permissions that you can ask for. And in there is customer email address, customer phone number, being able to add and write and read from your shopping lists, to-do lists, set up reminders, but also the address of where the device is, and so on. So these are different permissions that you have to add into your app and then or into your skill, and then you have to then request access to those. So those aren't things that we give out to developers right away. You have to request it from the end user, and the end user has to consent to giving that personal information over.
Correct. That is perfect. And on top of that, the permissions today have to be, did you say this? Have to be done in the app? The user has to actually go into the app and select them.
I did not say that, yeah.
But in the very near future, as part of our Alexa announcements, we announced that these permissions will be enableable, if that's a word, via voice. So in the very near future, you should be able to allow your user to prompt them and say, hey, is it okay if I get your email address or your phone number or whatever? The user says yes, and then boom, you are provided with that information as part of an API call. So that's exciting because permissions are kind of a little clunky right now when it comes to saying, hey, go to the app and set your permissions properly. A lot of people aren't going to do that, or maybe they may not have their phone with them at the moment that they're talking to the device. But if they can enable those permissions with their voice, coming soon, that should be incredibly exciting. I want to make sure I don't.
Yeah, and this is all to protect the end users, of course. We don't want end users' email addresses getting out, things like that.
Completely agree. So I just found something interesting here. I'm going to see if I can share the link out if Notepad will actually, there it is. I just want this URL. There's a GitHub link just shared. This is funny to me because I haven't seen this before by TradeLast. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Just looking at that.
That's unbelievable. Okay, so I wanted to see it before I sent it out to everyone. TradeLast, or someone, whoever Nashawat is on GitHub, has been cataloging the Alexa.design links to declare where those things go. That is amazing.
They're reverse engineering it.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I love it. So I just shared that link out to the groups. Wow.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm going to start this.
I'm going to have to contribute to this. This is great. Okay, so you guys can check that page out, but that gives you some idea of, the kinds of links that you're looking at. But for the most part, you should be able to guess them. Just remember the Alexa.design part. Okay. Supriya Sarogi says, I'm trying to integrate my service with Alexa, but before I do, I'd like to know, what does the Alexa Amazon store all the utterances from the customer? Oh, I would like to know, does Alexa or Amazon store all the utterances from the customer? If yes, then is there a configuration setting in Amazon that we can turn off to decide whether we want Alexa to store user utterances? So I'm going to go with Supriya. I don't know if that's what we're going to call you. I don't know if that's actually your name or if I'm mixing. It could be Supriya. I'm going to go with Supriya. This is an individual user choice. So it's not something that we as developers get to control. It's not something that Amazon gets to control. But each individual can go into their app and say, do not store my utterances. And if they do that, then we won't store their utterances. But by default, it is on. And the reason that it's on is because that is how we train our machine learning engines. So it is not used on any individual level by anyone at Amazon. We're not looking at individual utterances from individual people. We're looking at the aggregate. And so that is how our machine learning engine learns. That's how we, when you think about Alexa knowing new slang words, that's how that happens, is because she was able to hear people say those and use them in context. So that is the basic perspective on that. But Supriya, if you want users to not have that stuff stored, you would have to tell individual users to turn that setting off. But it is entirely up to the users themselves as to whether or not Amazon controls saves that data.
And it would be global across all the skills that they're interacting with.
Yeah, and that is true also. It's not by skill. It's whether their account saves it or doesn't save it. So they would be turning it off for all, which again is fine. There's no downside to that.
Yeah.
But just something to keep in mind. Did you hear that?
I did.
I once smoked it. I replaced literally all the batteries, and I still have one that beeps at me like once a day. I don't understand.
So you just reminded me. So in our house, it's 2-story, but the family room goes up to opens up to the second floor.
Yeah, our house is similar.
And they put a smoke alarm on the ceiling, 30 feet up in the air. I have when this thing starts beeping, I have no idea what to do. I just told my wife we're just going to have to move and sell the house because it's in the middle, so I can't even put a ladder against. I have no idea what to do. I'd rent a cherry picker.
You need a folding ladder that can go 30 feet high, which is not what is that one ladder they make? The Little Giant or whatever it is.
I have something similar to that, but it does not go nearly high enough.
Wow. That's crazy.
So,
I mean, I have a tool that I use because we have a couple of high lights, and I have a couple of tools that I use that I can reach from the floor and untwist the bulb and then put the new one in, but you're not going to do that with a 9-volt battery.
Right. If I call the fire department, will they help me? I have no idea what to do.
Honestly, they might. That's interesting. I hadn't considered calling the fire department, but they might help you, especially if you've got a sleepy town that isn't you're probably not going to get a New York City firefighter to come in your house, but where you live, maybe.
I told my wife she has to make the call and I won't be home. So then she'll make it look like she's
right.
Needs help. So
right. That's how she falls into the arms of a very hunky firefighter though. So be careful. There's a give and take there.
True.
All right, back to Alexa. I said, I'm getting and unable to find a suitable request handler for the navigate home intent. As I understand, that intent should be handled automatically. Not sure how to proceed. So you are confident, Brian, that you are triggering the navigate home intent, and then you're getting an error because it's trying to handle that for you, right? It's going into your code and doing what it needs to do. I haven't spent a ton of time with the navigate home intent. I know it's one of the required ones, but I just tend to ignore it. Well, I guess my first question is, Ryan, have you spent any time with that?
No, I was just looking up the documentation on this.
I don't believe that it is handled automatically, though. Because if it was handled automatically, like quit, then you wouldn't need to build it into your skill. So I do feel like you probably do need to handle it. Where is...
I usually just say, Alexa, stop.
I just want, I see, using Mac, navigate home. Navigate user to the device home screen. The skill session will end. That does make me feel like. Yeah, that does not need to be handled by the developer. So I'm seeing it right here on copy link address. Dropping the doc reference with the link to the anchor in the page. But it does say that skill developers have to handle previous and next. So the Amazon previous intent and the Amazon next intent have to be handled by the developer. But all of the other directional ones, scroll up, scroll down, scroll left, scroll right, page up, page down, more, and navigate home, including navigate settings, all of those, it says specifically, the developer does not handle the intent. That's very explicit here. So now I want to look at navigate home. You don't need to create an intent handler for it as long as your skill properly handles exit. If your skill has a custom utterance that overlaps with navigate home intent, your custom intent takes precedence. So that's leading me to believe, Brian, that you are not in fact hitting that intent. Now, I can't see your stuff, so I'm probably wrong. But what my recommendation is here, I always go to the utterance profiler and I try typing in what I think I said and see what intent it thinks it hits. The utterance profiler that's there on when you're looking at your interaction model in the dev console is a fantastic tool for showing you what intent is being hit and when. And I would start, that would be my first thing I would do. If I was sitting over your shoulder, I'd be like, oh, let's open the utterance profiler and see what's happening. And you would type in go home, and you would see that it's in fact not hitting the navigate home, but it's trying to hit some other intent that maybe you haven't handled. So you did the utterance profiler. That's great. So you've checked the initial box that I would go through. It's good. We just got to work through this.
Mm-hmm.
So
what did
I guess
it say?
Yeah. You then, you're seeing the actual navigate home intent in the CloudWatch logs. Well, that feels broken.
Ooh. Yeah.
If you're Brian, so let's do this. Can you send me?
He agrees it's broken.
Because I have to imagine that there is still, this is almost something like I have to build a stub and try this. In my imagination, when I say quit to my skill, not something that I built in at all, I still get a response sent to my skill, or I guess a request. And in that skill, it's a session ended request. And it's telling me, hey, by the way, the user ended the skill. I don't know why or anything like that. I wonder if there is a navigate home request sent to your skill that is just indicating to you that, like, hey, dude, they left.
So you can do cleanup, and so you can do other things you need to do, save stuff to the database, and so on.
So it does seem correct to me that you would get some kind of response, but I would have expected it probably to be a session ended request. But you shouldn't be able to then respond. Like this should be one of those things where you get that thing and you should do some cleanup, persist data, do whatever you need to do, but you're not going to be able to send another response because the session will have ended. So my go-to on this, before I've actually tested it, is that this is your opportunity to clean up and understand that they have navigated home and left. You won't be able to respond, you won't be able to reply, but you should be able to capture any final information you have, anything that was in the session that was important. All of that stuff should come through. So yes, it sounds like you should just be able to ignore it. That seems like a really big break if it's not the case. But it's more likely that that's what we're seeing. Brian, I know you've got me on Slack. I'd love to see one of those request objects. If you can send me the JSON doc that you're getting, I'd love to see one just to make sure that I'm confirming what I see. I won't be able to look at it right now. I don't actually have Slack on this machine, but I will take a look at it today just to confirm. That would be awesome. Malero, you're totally right. Stop does, cancel does. Stop and cancel have their own intents that you can handle and reply to. It's quit. And so if I misspoke, I apologize. Quit does not provide that. Quit just lets you know they left. And you do not get an opportunity to reply. But you're correct, Malera. I'm sorry if I misspoke. W. Giorgio wants to know, do we have an ETA where ISPs in ENIN, so this is English in India, and the others that were stated in Alexa Live will be available? Come on, you know me better than that. You know that I can't talk future roadmap and like when things are actually going to release. We do a lot of announcing. I'm going to craft a new word here, Ryan. We do a lot of announcifying at Alexa Live, but that does not mean that those things will be available that day or that week, unfortunately, because we want to show people kind of where we're headed. But a lot of those things are still being built, or they're in a really restricted developer preview. So the answer is in the future. And if I have to be really locked down on a timeline, I'd be willing to wager a small amount of money that it'll be within the next 12 months. But I don't know that I would be any more aggressive than that.
And that's based off of no insider knowledge. That's just your complete gut.
I have no knowledge at all, but I have the opportunity to get some people fired if they can't deliver something we announced at Alexa Live 2021 before Alexa Live 2022, which, by the way, this was not an announcement in any way. I'm just saying it's my gut feel that they would deliver that before we get to the next Alexa Live. That being said, that has not been true always. So Malero, I want to take one more step on this stop, cancel, quit business. Quit does not have its own intent. Quit does not have any kind of interactivity at all. Quit is a built-in word that takes you out of the skill you're in right now and is not handled at all by your skill. So you will receive a session-ended request to let you know that the skill has ended. But you don't know that they said quit. It would look very similar to them just walking away and not responding to your skill. But that is that there is no intent for quit. It's just a built-in function that people can use to get out quickly. Because as you've probably seen in other skills, someone says stop and they want the skill to stop right now. But you say, hey, thanks for playing my game. Let me tell you about 7 other things. That generally drives people crazy. And so quit is that opportunity for them to just quit. It just ends it. So that's just some knowledge for all y'alls. Okay. Brian Tarbuck says, I created a rehearse my lines skill that you talked about last week. It was very easy to write. Still figuring out how to get the screenplay up to a place where my skill can find it. So in my mind, when I imagined architecting this rehearse my lines theater play skill, I would have a collection of database records that were ordered from 1 to 12,000 or whatever. And each one of them would be every line of the play. So every time you change the speaker, that would be a new entry in the database. And then I could easily just go 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and piece them all together. It also allows me to then say, hey, I'm playing the role of Mr. Green. We were talking about the play Clue. So I'm playing the role of Mr. Green. You tell it that, and it goes, okay, cool. Well, I'll stop and pause when Mr. Green's lines come up. And so I go 1, 2, Mr. Green has line 3. So instead I open the microphone and I let you talk. And then when you're done, I just capture that. I don't really need to do anything with it. And then I read line 4, which is the line that would happen immediately after Mr. Green talked. So in my head, that's kind of how I was going to build it. But that's also why I think it's time consuming to get these plays into a structure you can use, because you need that interactivity. You need to be able to say, how do I get the user to load the lines into the database? That's a bigger problem. Where I was headed with this was to build it once, build a cool prototype. And then you take that to the companies that license these plays, because the path you're headed down, which is I want the user to just load their play in, is dangerous because you're encouraging them and then storing data for them that is violating copyright, which I wouldn't recommend at all. So the bigger plan, the bigger picture that I was imagining is that you then build that one prototype, go to the companies that own the licenses for these plays and say, hey, I've got a really cool opportunity for you here. We could sell these plays for $10 a pop or whatever it is, because schools have to buy these things too. We could sell this interactivity for $10 per user. I keep half, you keep half. We have a nice business model. That's ultimately where I thought I was headed with this. Probably never going to build it, but I think it's cool. And I love that you're headed down that road. But I think that's your next step, is that you offer a list of plays and the user comes in and says, I want this play. And you're like, cool, we've got that one. Or I'm sorry, we don't have that one right now. And then now you save that as a record and say, who owns the rights to that play? I've got to go find them. That's the business model for me. So Brian, run after it. I hope you are the king of plays a year from now. But that's kind of how I pictured the whole thing working. And that's, you are then responsible, or your team as you hire them, because you're making millions of dollars. Those you and your company are the ones loading plays into the system. Okay, that was a lot. Frank the programmer says, I haven't taken a look at it recently, but I know APLA reprompt support was announced. Is that live yet? I'm not aware of it being live yet. There's very little that we announced at Alexa Live that is live today. but I will dig into that. Maybe Ryan can do some background research while we're doing this.
Well, I think TradeLast answered it.
Oh, we did.
It looks like it is.
Oh, excellent. It's
great. Just not reprompt within the APLA doc. Is that maybe the catch right now? Because there is a reprompt there, but it's not within the doc.
Understood. All right, so TradeLast replied to you, Frank, on Twitch. You guys are both on Twitch, so you should be able to see that. Let me know if that doesn't solve your problem. But that's good news. In the meantime, Jose Daniel had another question on YouTube, which is there a way to pass context from one intent to the other from the web console? If not, what is the ideal mechanism to pass context from one intent to the other? I'm not sure I entirely understand this question because context is context. And so what I imagine you're trying to do, I'm going to make up a scenario, is that the user comes into your skill and you say, welcome to the favorite color skill. What is your favorite color? And the user says orange. That's my favorite color. And you say, okay, cool. I've saved your favorite color. I'll remember it next time. What is your favorite food? And then they answer pizza or something. And you say, okay, your favorite color is orange and your favorite food is pizza. Got it. I think I'm describing what you're laying out, which is that I still know about orange, even though they talk to the favorite food intent. I think that's kind of what you're describing. The piece that has me perplexed is from the web console. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I assume that means that you're trying to do all of your development in the developer console on the web at developer.amazon.com. And in order to pass that stuff between those two intents, it's not really a passing so much as a persisting. You're going to take the value that the user said for their favorite color, orange, and you're going to save that to a session variable, which lives on just in that session, assuming that's what you need. So it's pretty, you can find session attributes. That's actually the terminology that we use, but you can find lots and lots of information about creating, storing, deleting, managing session attributes inside your skill. And it's very simple to do. It's one line of code. The catch with those is those session attributes expire when the user stops using the skill. So then you need to go to the next opportunity, which is persistent attributes. You can do this anywhere you'd like. By default, we offer the ability to store it in an, is it in an S3 bucket or is it in Dynamo? I don't actually know which one it goes to. Both, depending on if it's Alexa hosted or not. S3, I think, is where the Alexa hosted. Right, it just becomes a flat file in an S3 bucket, I think. That also allows you to persist it. Now it is stored permanently, and that means that when they come back the next day and the next day, you still know what their favorite color, their favorite food, whatever it happens to be. So you're looking for, as your search terms go, Alexa session attributes and Alexa persistent attributes. Set that off.
I couldn't find anything for that.
I know. So that is what I would recommend for those two things specifically.
If you go to the Cake Time tutorial, module 5 has a whole module on saving persistence and all this.
Perfect. So Jose, if you have used the Cake Time tutorial,
yes.
Which if you just search for Alexa Cake Time, you can find it pretty easily. Ryan says module 5 is the place to go. Did you give me a link? Awesome.
I did. I'm deep in all these tutorials.
Oh, I love it.
Oh.
Okay, I'm posting a link to the module that shows you how to manage persistence and session attributes right there in that tutorial on that page. So cool. The blog post about this from 721 says, beginning today, APLA can be used in a reprompt. So Frank, I would take a look at what TradeLast just posted and see if that doesn't get you what you're looking for. But the idea is passing the traditional SSML response, you're passing an APLA response.
TradeLast is on top of it today, and I really appreciate his help today.
One of my favorite parts about TradeLast and OxygenBox also, but primarily TradeLast, is more often than not, before I could find it, they've already posted it. They are active participants in this show, but also in this community. and their willingness to spend their time to help others is invaluable. I am so thankful and grateful for you guys, all of you that are here that share your thoughts and ideas and stuff. It's amazing. Oh, we only have 10 minutes? We've been here 50 minutes already? I feel like we just started. This is great.
I took up like 20 minutes talking about berries and cream, so sorry
True,
about that.
We did do a decent amount of berries and cream. I feel like I need to go find a good berries and cream video to wrap up here with. I'll turn my video down, see if I can find one of the ones Ryan sent me. We'll use that as our example.
Say like 10.
Let's see. Anyway, I think we've caught up on the questions. We still have 10 minutes left, and I do not want to play 10 minutes of berries and cream TikTok to all of you. So if there are any other questions, please let me know. Okay.
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? I have committed, if you guys missed early on, I have committed to drill all of the grommet holes that I need behind me and to hang up my my lights, my nanoleaf lights. Brian says he wish he could say, Alexa, stop listening. Tell me more about that. What does that mean? Is it like a mute button? Like a voice-powered mute button? I've always wanted that.
I have too. Yeah, pushing the button is just so inconvenient.
It's so far away, Ryan. I just can't reach. No,
Well, you can get one of those like little button pusher things that are Alexa enabled. So you could build your own on top.
Yeah, and that would actually be better because if you mute it, that's great, but you're not going to be able to unmute it because now it's muted, so you can't talk to it anymore.
Which I'm fine with that.
We've talked about this. I have the same issue with my router. There's times, once a quarter maybe, where I want to reboot my router, and I'm like, do I really want to go all the way down the basement, stand there, wait, do all that stuff? I wish I could just have Alexa do it, and I could very easily mute for 60 minutes now.
That's brilliant.
Now this is big brain stuff here. With the router, once I tell Alexa to reboot the router or turn it off or whatever, she doesn't have a way to turn it back on because the internet's gone. So there are a couple of those catch-22s. Mute for oh my gosh, this is going on one of the big lists. Brian, I think that this is an excellent idea that I'm sure has been on someone's list before, but the idea that I could say mute for 60 minutes is pretty cool. I like that idea a lot.
Then we wouldn't be triggering your devices. We could just say that at the beginning of every office hours.
Right. We could turn everyone's devices off for 60 minutes.
And we wouldn't be triggering them for an hour.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Clapper. Oxygen box. That's brilliant.
The clapper. The original Alexa. Man, that's a cool idea too. All right. Yeah, the problem is just I don't think that there's anything in any routines that gives you access to the mute functionality. And in general, these are hardware mute buttons. So if you're controlling it with software, I'm not sure how that works. I have to look. It's a good idea. I definitely need that all the time. Another one would be I'm watching TV on the big main TV in my family room. There's an Alexa device sitting right next to it. And it turns itself on all the time when the show's on. Now, it's not actually responding, but the blue light goes on. It thinks it's being talked to and then realizes it's not. And that's still annoying. I'd like it to just be muted while this TV's playing. That'd be super cool. There is a do not disturb device setting, but I think that probably just turns off notifications. I don't think that prevents the device from listening. Like if I don't want the notification sounds to go off, I think that's what the DND is for. I think. Yeah, muting for a period of time is Brian's recommendation. I think that's a good one.
I would use that in my house just to keep the kids from necessarily
Right.
playing
Is that
music
an
all the time.
attachment that is offered for children? Because that is something I'm interested in.
Or like ignore children voices for the next hour. Like that would be ideal.
Brian wants to know if I could run a 60-minute audio file that was silent. You're not allowed to do that. Silent audio is not allowed. You'd have to have a tick once in a while. I don't know how frequently. I think it's every 15 seconds or something. But you have to have some sound at some point so that people realize that it is running. But I don't think you could play a 60-minute audio file, and that still wouldn't prevent the device from hearing the wake word. That's what we're really trying to turn off is I don't want you to respond in any way for 60 minutes. That would be a cool feature. I like that one. It's very rare that an idea comes across the table that I'm like, I hadn't considered that part. I can't tell you the number of times I've thought about how I would mute a device remotely, but I somehow had not put together put a timer on it. Just mute it for a limited amount of time. It's a good one.
That is.
Yeah, I mean, once I get these holes drilled, I've got 12 devices sitting here behind me, and they're almost always all muted, except for usually like the one that I want to use regularly. So, yeah, this is interesting. All right, well, we can end a minute or two early, but I'll give you guys some berries and cream on the way out.
This is my fault.
Here's one.
Sorry, everybody.
Berries and cream. Berries and cream. Berries and bean. 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 Berries and bean.
It's so bad.
Berries and bean. Berries and bean.
Like every song you can think of is a berries and cream version.
Berries and cream.
This is Under the Sea.
Berries and cream. Berries and cream.
God, it's so bad.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups. The
Boss do
to
the little odd dance.
and the
Berries
to prosecute.
cream.
These are their stories.
Terrible.
Oh my goodness. Is that it? Yeah, those are the ones you sent me.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you guys are looking for some horrible entertainment, get the TikTok app, search for berries and cream, and make that your only algorithm hit, and you'll yeah, it's a thing.
You'll be
Anyway,
set.
if you guys aren't on TikTok, it's not just for 12-year-olds anymore. It's cool. So it's
Super cool.
the amazing amount of content that's on there is remarkable. And like you can find me everywhere else, you can find me on TikTok with this username. I've made a bunch of videos that I'll be embarrassed you saw, but they're there. Okay, with that, I think we're going to wrap up for today, Ryan. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for the questions and the conversation and the links, Trade Last. You guys are all amazing. And hopefully I'll see you on Slack and everywhere else in the very near future. So with that, we'll sign off for today.
See ya.